G'day guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Boundary Riders podcast, episode 112, and of course we have a lot to talk about today. We do have a bit of an update coming forward about injury reporting in the AFL. We'll be taking a look at Willie Rioli and a little bit of situation brewing around him. The new AFL26 game, I want to give you guys my thoughts about it, the preview to round 9, the review of AFL Fantasy in round 8, of course, so much more. So let's get into the intro and get straight into it. Welcome to the Boundary Riders podcast, your one-stop shop for all your AFL content needs.
He looks at his options, and Jack Ginnivan says, "Boys, you brought me to the club to do just this!"
But this guy has flog written all over him.
From attack down, Reed sprints away from Petrarca, leaves him in his wake, takes a second bounce, takes a third. The sheer arrogance of Harley Reid. Finish the job, young man!
So let's get into the footy news from the week that was. So guys, as you can tell, my brother isn't here today. He, like I get to a little bit later in the AFL Fantasy, he's dropped off that much that I've just kicked him out. He's doing terrible, and I'm pretty disappointed to even name him as my younger brother. But in all honesty, he's obviously just away this week because of work commitments. But thought I'd jump in today, do the solo pod as I have done quite a lot every now and then, I guess. I do enjoy when he is here, but doesn't mind it, just me and you guys. So I want to get into the injury update. So first of all, AFL have came out today and said that they have given a sternly worded memo to the clubs around the league about requirements. They do need to give an up-to-date and transparent injury list when posting. So this is coming out from Mitch Cleary just before the injury lists were revealed by AFL clubs at 5 p.m. today. And very interestingly, Geelong have listed out a huge injury list. Of course, most people would know that Geelong are the club that are very shady regarding their injury list. Did think it was very interesting that Tanner Bruin was on there. I don't think he's been on there before today. Obviously, a lot going on around him. I don't know the full story, so I'm not going to even speculate on it. But it's very interesting that Geelong all of a sudden released a very interesting, very well-documented injury list that's got a lot of it regarding most of it is talking about that, how many weeks they've got off. So very interesting. I don't think many other clubs were doing it, or it wasn't even well documented, but very interesting. The AFL have come out and said that. I didn't necessarily think it was actually going to happen. I didn't think it was really necessary, in my opinion, but I don't even know why Geelong really care, really. I don't think they've been that successful for the last, 10, 15 years because of it. So I don't really know why they're so secretive of their injury list, but I guess do what you want, but now you can't really do that. So that's interesting. So I do want to take a couple of injuries that came over the week and some interesting news. Miller Bergman, unfortunately, for North Melbourne, has done his ACL, so he's going to be missing the rest of the season. Travis Boak does seem that he will return for Port Adelaide this week in the showdown, or at least he's a test at this stage. I think they do need him back for a little bit of extra leadership on the team, so we'll see how that plays out. For the Crows, Matt Crouch continues to recover from a hip concern. However, he's expected to miss up to 4 to 6 weeks. So that's a little bit unfortunate there for the Crows, but I'm pretty sure they'll find a younger guy to run through there. I'm a little bit surprised, to be honest, that Matt Crouch is still in the team. Not that he's playing exactly that bad, but I think that nowadays, I think you could probably chuck a younger guy through there at the moment. Fremantle have confirmed that Hayden Young could miss up to 3 months after undergoing hamstring surgery today. So really unfortunate there for the Dockers. Of course, got injured in that terrible loss against St Kilda last week. And I mean, he was such an important player for them last year when they were up the top of the ladder. So really bad news there for the Dockers. But a little bit better news is the fact that Nathan O'Driscoll is a test and hopefully will return for the Dockers this week against the Pies. And Collingwood have also confirmed that they're going to be resting a bunch of players over the week or over this week because of a 5-day break against Fremantle. I don't think they've confirmed exactly who it's going to be at this stage. However, they are expecting to rest quite a few players. I think it's either 4 or 5. I'll quickly confirm that. It is 5 at the moment. So Craig McRae has confirmed that, or maybe he has confirmed it. Well, he said that 5 could be rested. However, the 4 that have been confirmed at this stage are Jordan De Goey, Pendlebury, Myercheck, and Maynard will not play against the Dockers. So my brother, when we get to the tips a little bit later, he did tip Collingwood originally. He has changed his tip to Fremantle. because of this, but I'm still keeping on Collingwood. I don't trust Fremantle even with these losses out. So interested, there will be a couple of kids that have been playing quite well in the VFL that will take over, but at this stage, that's pretty much what we're looking at for the injury updates, the major ones. Also, Mateus Filippo missed last week because he got a corky in training. He was expected to return after a long injury layoff. He is a test for this week for Saints fans out there. But let's move to the Willie Rioli situation because very interesting incident happened over the weekend. He was he was in Ballarat, of course, playing for the Power, and they got smashed by the Bulldogs. He came out and on an Instagram post saying Willie Rioli is pretty frustrated with how the clip came out that Dale swung first and Rioli hit later, and the only thing that was caught was Rioli's hit. It does say that Rioli directed a message to teammates of Dale with words to the effect of, "I have a lot of friends up in the NT. He should be careful of leaving the hotel in Darwin next week," which is the polite response from, I think it was Sam Edmund who posted this, but that's not on. What is he doing? I don't mind banter. I don't mind go fuck yourself, swearing, giving the finger. None of that's all fine. Like, whatever. I don't think that's a big deal. But you can't threaten someone with, getting beaten up or whatever he was threatening here, Rioli. And the fact that the AFL haven't even come out and said anything regarding this is ridiculous. Now, Tim Watson on SEN made a decent point. I think it's very well structured. I'm staggered that the AFL has not punished him. If you flip the bird, you're getting a $1,000 fine. No penalty has gone to Rioli, which is ridiculous. And I don't like to people saying, "Oh, it's because of his race." They want to protect him because of that. Because I just hate those sort of arguments coming into it. But I totally understand where people would be coming from, bringing up that point. And I don't think that's the case. I think the fact that he's said that, threatened a player, or has told his teammates, Bailey Dale, that he's threatened a player is ridiculous. If that is true, if it's not, then by all means, and forget what I'm saying, false reporting should be fucking struck down. But the fact that Rioli hasn't come out and said anything against it makes me believe that this did happen. And just to threaten someone over a game of footy like that, obviously the Bulldogs are going up to the NT to play the Gold Coast this week. I don't like that look at all. And I think it should be struck out. It should be punished because that shouldn't be allowed in the game, to be threatening people like that. And these, I know I've said it quite a few times on the episode, on podcasts in the past, that I don't like the role model aspect of the AFL, because I think a lot of the time people use that as a crutch for players just being themselves. But this is not, this is a role model thing. Like, you can't be saying that sort of stuff and throwing those sort of insults, well, not even insults, just threats, basically, you can't do that. And that's really crappy. And Port Adelaide, I would be interested to see if they have punished him even silently, have told it, or at least had a talk to him. I know they did a couple of weeks, was it last week or a week ago, regarding his social media. It was a couple of weeks ago after Gather Round against Hawthorn, that's right. They did talk to him in closed doors saying he shouldn't have posted about it, but in that one, I do tend to understand where Willie was coming from regarding the Hawthorn situation because of how his family was treated. Whether you believe it or not, the way he says it, the way he has framed it, he does seem that he has a very big problem with the Hawthorn Football Club and how his family was treated. And that's by all means his own opinion and his own thoughts. Probably shouldn't have posted it on social media, and probably should just stay away from it, if I'm being honest. I think AFL players should obviously have access to social media. That's ridiculous if you think otherwise. But they should also be realising that they are in front of a big audience, no matter who they are. And journalists nowadays will be stalking them by any needs necessary to find a story. Because a lot of people may have not... I don't know if a lot of people have brought this up. Probably a few. But the recent surge in TV shows and news stories regarding footy now has been amplified, especially this year with Channel 7 growing their football programs. They've got I think a show nearly every single night. Kane Corns is obviously the mainstay of it. We've seen the Harry Sheasel talk regarding Kane Corns, and I haven't really liked that either. I don't think that he's been stat padding, so to speak. but I think that people are going to get worn out by it. And the thing is that they're going to be finding stories that don't need to be talked about. Like looking at social media and stuff and finding things that just aren't newsworthy whatsoever. Alex Pearce a couple of days ago got caught liking a post that was in favor of, well, it was pretty anti-Semitism. It was a lot of anti-Semitism regarding it, or people thought that. I don't think he should have liked the post. I did go and see it. It wasn't great. It's pretty divisive. I know some people, I don't know anything about the war in Palestine, by the way. So if you're looking for an in-depth analysis on it, you're in the wrong place. But I don't think he should have liked it, and I don't really think it's the right thing to do or right thing to support. However, I don't like the fact that journalists are literally they're like policing people's likes on social media. I don't like the precedent it sends, and we've already seen it in recent years when players just like trade rumors, and sometimes they become true. But does it really matter? I mean, does it really affect people that much? I don't think it does, and I think it's setting a bad precedent going forward regarding the media in this the AFL media, how it's growing, and I don't like how the main source of views now, especially in the AFL media space, is from rage bait or trying to say the most outlandish statement. I mean, I guess that's just media in general, the mainstream I'm talking about, not so much lower creators or whatever you want to call them. But that's the way they get views now, and it's getting a bit ridiculous. Like, I think the Harry Sheezel one I bring up because I think it is ridiculous to say he's stat padding just because he doesn't get the same amount of score involvements that another player does. I personally don't like where Harry Sheezel's playing right now, but I don't think by any means he's stat padding. I don't think he's running around looking for easy handballs and easy kicks and stuff. I think he should be used up the ground, more utilised up there. But also I do think that North Melbourne do need a good distributor in that half-back role. And at the moment it doesn't really seem like Caleb Daniel has been doing that to full effect. So I think that a lot of you will find a statistic and then you can make an outlandish claim regarding that statistic to make your point a lot more amplified, if that makes any sort of sense. But overall on the Willie Rioli stuff, I think it's ridiculous that he hasn't been sanctioned by the AFL if it's true. And I guess I'll just leave it there for now. But moving on from that, I did want to take a look at the AFL game, the AFL26 game. Now, I'm going to get into my thoughts in a minute, but I did want to talk about the few features and stuff regarding the game itself coming on May the 8th. So the game releases in a couple of days when I'm recording, and when I'm recording, and tomorrow it'll be coming out, so the podcast, 2 days. So career mode in AFL26 is getting a big upgrade. You can see on the screenshots they've released, if you haven't seen it, just go look at I think it's on the AFL Instagram or whatever it is. They've released a bunch of statistics regarding the game. It does look quite clean. I did get the AFL23 game, and we'll get into my thoughts about that in a minute. But I did want to take a look at the ratings regarding the game. The top 7 players will be Patrick Cripps at 94. He is the highest rated player. Nick Dacos is at 93, along with Marcus Bontempelli. 92 is Lachie Neale, Zach Butters, Jeremy Cameron, and Isaac Heaney. And other players include at 91, Jesse Hogan, along with Charlie Curnow, Caleb Sarong, Max Gawn, Chad Warner, Errol Goulden, Christian Petrarca, Sam Taylor, Toby Green as well. And then for the Crow, and then at 90, we've got Jordan Dawson, Tom Stewart, Zach Merritts, Max Holmes, Harry Sheezel, Tom Green, Harris Andrews, Andrew Brayshaw, and Noah Anderson. So, good players there. Don't think there's many issues with that. From my understanding, the players are lower rated than what they were last time. I think I'm not too sure if that's exactly right, but I would like to see it's a little bit better on the rating system rather than giving everyone I think they're giving shit players that no one's ever played a game rated 80, and it's bro, what the fuck are you giving them 80 for? The rating system has no meaning, especially when they were showing teams like West Coast were 89 rated and the best team was 94. It's what the fuck does that mean? But anyway, that's not my gripe with the game coming forward. So finally, I wanted to take a look at some other statistics, the highest rated players going into the game on different sort of stats. On tackling, for some reason, Patrick Cripps has got the highest statistic in tackling, even though I've barely seen him lay a tackle in his fucking life. I mean, that's a little bit facetious. That's not true. But, like, why has he got the highest tackling stat? It doesn't make sense. Anyway, Jack Viney, second. Marcus Bontempelli, third. Tom Green, fourth. Josh Dunkley, fifth. Who should be number one, by the way. Matt Rao, six. Jack Steele, seven. Another one who should be higher. Jordan Dawson, 8. Ollie Wines, weird one, 9. And James Rowbottom, the highest tackler last year, is in 10th. Like, whatever. Anyway. Set shots, Josh Tracy at 1. That's a good decision. Jesse Hogan at pick 2. Probably should have been pick 1, but still okay. Charlie Curnow at 3. Ben King at 4. Depends on how he's playing. Jeremy Cameron at 5. Sam Darcy at 6. Joel Amati at 7. Taylor Walker at 8. Jake Waterman at 9. Nick Larkey at 10. Well, that should be a lot higher than that, I would say anyway. Marking, Jeremy Cameron, weirdly at 1. Harry Mackay at 2. Jeremy McGovern at 3. Jacob Wiedering at 4. Jake Lever at 5. Harry Himmelberg at 6, Nick Vlosten 7, Tom Stewart should be higher at 8, Sam Taylor should be higher at 9, and Harris Andrews should be higher at 10. So why is Jeremy Cameron the highest marker? That's a weird decision. Physicality, Jesse Hogan at 1, Cameron, Curnow, Andrews, Sam Darcy, weird one to be at 4th. Never seen him really being a one-on-one. I mean, he's much more of a leaping mark in my opinion, but anyway, I guess he is a little bit tough, but I don't know if he's the 4th toughest in the game, 4th best physical player in the game. Tracy at 5. What the fuck are they glazing Cripps for? Why the hell is he at 6? Oh, God, anyway. 7, bro, this will fucking shock your mind. Marcus Bontempelli at 7, that's fine. Tom Green, 8. Jack Lukosius at 9. What the fuck was that? Who the hell? Jack Lukosius at 9. That's ridiculous. Anyway, speed. Sam Switkowski, a weird one at number 1. I'll be interested to see if they actually reveal how they've made these statistics. But Sam Switkowski, I mean, he's a good player. I like Sam Switkowski, but weird to be at number 1. Tyson Stengel at 2. Weird one again. 3 is Brent Daniels. 4, Bailey Banfield. Okay. This is speed, by the way. Like, where the fuck's Darcy Jones? He should be on this list. Ben Ainsworth at 5. Lockie Schultz at 6. Definitely not on his last year's form. But anyway, Zach Guthrie at 7. Zach Williams at 8. Cal Archie at 9. And Dylan Moore at 10. Weird. And then finally hit-outs. Maybe we'll get this one right. Max Gorn 1. Tristan Cherry 2. Oscar McInerney 3. Rowan Marshall 4. Brody Grundy 5. Nankervis 6. Meek 7. Witts 8. Darcy 9. English 10. I don't really have many issues with that. So that's all some of the big statistics coming into the game. But now to the big reason why I bring up AFL26, which of course brings us to our fan favourite segment. The Flog of the Week is back. The studio who is running AFL26 is of course Big Ant Studios. They will be receiving the Flog of the Week nomination this week. Now, I have to bring up this first because people get angry if you don't, but I do believe this. First of all, I hope this game is really good. I really do. I want to play an AFL game that is good. AFL 23 was not, which we'll get to in a moment, but AFL 26, I want it to be a good game. I want to have a game to play that I have I have nostalgic memories of the AFL games back in 2006, 2007 that I used to play. I used to thrash out those games playing the coaching mode, whatever it was called, and you could just coach up your team forever. I was the Sydney Swans and used to trade in players that were like really good. I used to remember changing the squads around just to have the players that were playing for Sydney currently at the time and just playing that forever. I love those games. But we haven't had a good one in a while. And with AFL 23, oh boy, was that a letdown. So I just want a good AFL sports game. Now, I also get the AFL as a whole is to base a game on the AFL sport is difficult. It's such a unique sport. There's no reference point that Big Ant Studios can really use for an AFL game from like a big American studio like EA or 2K or something like that. They have to use, they have to work on the game for themselves. There's no other reference point. And I understand as well that Big Ant Studios isn't a massive EA type or 2K. It's a gaming studio here in Australia, which is very weird and very different, and it's not EA level. So I understand the game's not going to be as good as a FIFA or EA, whatever the hell it's called now, EAFC or 2K, game or whatever. However, in saying that, if you're going to be releasing a game at AAA price, you bet your ass you give us some sort of product that's at least somewhat that worth that price tag. This game is releasing at $89 at JB Hi-Fi. I haven't been able to find it on the PlayStation Store yet, so I don't know if you can pre-order it. If you can on the PlayStation Store, let me know. I remember buying the AFL23 game for, I think, $109. The game was unplayable. You're releasing this game at a full price at JB Hi-Fi, for the disc version, by the way. So I have a PlayStation. I don't have the disc version. I can't get the disc version of the game. I have to get it off the PlayStation Store, which means I am locked to whatever they make the price on PlayStation. It was $100 odd last time when I got the game on release for AFL23, which was delayed, by the way. The game was unplayable. You delayed the release, which is fine. I would much rather you delay the release of a game if you release it good. But you released the game in such a shocking state. People were playing it on stream and saying, this must not, like players who got early access to it were saying, they must have given us a different version. This is dog shit. And I think it was Cardman or whatever it was, went to the old AFL game to play it on stream because the AFL 23 was so poor. So, I'm just bagging on AFL 23 at the moment, but I'm getting to a point here. The fact that game is coming out in a couple of days' time, and you have shown next to no gameplay of this game, is shady as fuck. You have released less than 5 minutes of gameplay for your new game, and the game releases at an $89 price tag in a day or two. That is shady as fuck. By my opinion, you can disagree all you want. I think that is shady as shit. You should not be allowed to do that, especially when your game released so poorly, your previous installment of the AFL gaming franchise, whatever you want to call it, okay? You can release all the screenshots you fucking want about the different statistics in the game, the different features you got in the game, but guess what? The game doesn't play. If you can't play the game, those little fucking trinkets of shit doesn't mean fuck all. It doesn't mean anything. So you need to tell me, you need to show me gameplay, continuous gameplay, that this works. Now, I don't know if they've given early access to people. I'm recording this in the podcast at 6 o'clock at night on Tuesday. So maybe they'll release some sort of gameplay before release on Thursday morning. But at this stage, I am incredibly anxious to see how this releases. Now, I'm personally not going to get the game. I don't trust it. I don't trust that this game's going to be releasing, at the very least, releasing well. And I don't think you should be buying the game if you don't trust that this game's going to be good on launch. Because you're paying a lot of money. $89 for a game, that's from the stores. If you're getting it on the PlayStation Store or the Xbox Store or PC or wherever you're getting it from because you can't get the disc version, you're beholden to whatever they sell it for on there. So I'm just going to go by the JB Hi-Fi price of $90, $89.99. If that's a lot of money for a lot of people, and you got to think a lot of the people buying this game will be kids who don't have a job. Their parents are having to buy it. Imagine how they would have felt. I felt fucking horrible when I was playing the game on launch AFL23 that it did not work, and I spent $100, and it was my work money. Like, I get paid every week. Imagine a kid who gets it for a present or just gets it from their parents, and they go up to them the next day, and their parents see that the game's. Well, I mean, a lot of parents would know how gaming works, or at least nowadays, at least I would anyway. If I saw the game was shit, I would be fucking ropeable that I spent $100 for a game for my kid to hopefully have fun, play games for the heroes that he watches every week, and watch the game be absolutely dog shit. It doesn't work. And by the way, the game didn't work pretty much all the way until now. The game works now just. And you released it at $100. You released the AFL Pro Teams, which we'll get to in a moment as well. They released that. They didn't release it until, a year or so after the game released, when they promised it would be a month after. They were going to release it with the launch, but then they told us pretty early, a couple of months before the game released, I'm pretty sure, that they were going to wait a month after the game. And then they just said nothing about it. And then they eventually released it, which is like, yeah, no one's playing this game anymore. We don't give a fuck. So, yeah, I never played Pro Teams. You could ask, I'm sure there's creators out there who played it and can tell you how it was. I was never going to spend extra money on the game. That's definitely not for me. Now, they will be releasing, well, they've confirmed in an article, which we get to, that Pro Teams is going to be on release. So that is good news. Well, let's hope it works. That's the thing, though. Is this going to work? Because it didn't really work when it was released because it was so late after. You want to play these games online and build these teams. I mean, I would anyway. The player base for this game is going to be very low if they don't release it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, well, I would like it to be, but let's just give them a bit of a break. Let's just hope there's a couple of bugs that they just don't know about. That's all we can hope for, and that they can patch them pretty quickly. The game was unplayable when it first came out. And if the game's unplayable and online, like if you bring the online aspect to the game and it doesn't work, we're in a shit show like we were last time. So the fact that they haven't shown any gameplay, the $90, they've shown, I think, 2 minutes of like little snippets of gameplay, 3 minutes maybe, of snippets of gameplay. So I'm not trusting that at all, considering I went back and watched the AFL23 trailer, and there's a little bit more in this one than what it was for the AFL official 23 trailer, but there's not a lot more. I'm not banking on that. So I'm very, very cautious on this game at the moment. But to the article that I was talking about. So there was an article about a week ago done with JB Hi-Fi, talking about the game and, you know, basically promoting it with I think it's the creator, but definitely someone involved with Big Ant. And I don't know if the interviewer was told not to talk about the poor release of AFL 23, but the fact that that wasn't mentioned is an absolute joke because they haven't talked about it really at all. And that is the biggest gripe that people had with the game. You can talk about the graphics and stuff that looks like, you know, boxes on PS2. I get that's a funny meme and it's funny. I personally don't really care. But I also don't care about the facial tracking and shit as well. The players could look like blocks for all I care. As long as the fucking game works, I'd be pretty happy. Like, I played it back in 2007 and whatever. I didn't care that the players were blocks, bro. I cared that the game worked and it was fun. Okay? That's what I think most people who play games want it to happen. You know? I mean, graphics are great. That's a little add-on. But the main point of a game is to play it and have fun. You're not having fun if the game is glitchy as fuck. Some of the glitches were funny, all right? But most of them were just shit, and it fucked up the game. So that's what my big issue is. And they didn't mention that in this puff piece at all, which is something that should have been asked. And if it wasn't, that's crap on their end. And they should have at least said something regarding the game itself. But basically, they showed a bunch of new features in the article and a bunch of stuff that they've done to fine-tune the game, and, you know, they've fixed some patches or whatever with the AFL 23 to this one, and all, you know, great, riveting stuff. But overall, nothing that I'm banking on. So, in my opinion, final thoughts, my final opinion of this is I am not getting AFL 26 now on release. I may get it in the future. I probably won't make content on it, but AFL 26 as a whole, I won't be getting on launch because I think the Big Ant release of this game has been very shady, to say the least. Borderline a scam, because they've shown no gameplay. Well, sorry, they've shown 3 minutes of snippets of gameplay 2 days before release, and that would be bad enough in itself. But the last release of an AFL game that they have done was so poor that people who had early access to the game were on stream live saying, we must have got a different version because this is not the AFL 23 that we played. So you can, you know, talk about you can send all the screenshots you want about different statistics in the game. You can talk about all the facial tracking that you did. If the game doesn't work, people are going to come at you and they're going to hate you for it. So you would want to release a good game, especially at the price tag you're releasing it at. If you're releasing a game at $90, hell, you got some expectations to hit. And that's not just having the game, you know, having the players look good, or, you know, you can bump or you can tackle, or the career mode looks good. The game has to work, and it has to work well. That's my final thoughts on AFL 26. Make sure to let me know if you are going to be getting the game on launch. I'm making this video just before the release of AFL26. And again, I really hope this game releases well. I really want a good AFL game. But from what they have released, it is incredibly shady that they have shown no full gameplay at all. They have shown 3 minutes of trailer that are just snippets of little AFL moments that they've been able to recreate. I want to see full gameplay before I buy it. That's why I am waiting. And that's basically my final thoughts on the game. But the flog of the week is going to Big Ant Studios because the fact that they have been so quiet on the problems with AFL 23 at launch, not even giving any sort of confidence to the consumer that AFL 26 will release well at launch. To say that gaming studios don't do that is ridiculous. So they should be doing it. If they want to be seen as like a good gaming studio and people can start to trust them again, then they should have came out straight away with the release of AFL 26 with some sort of statement saying, we understand we messed up with AFL 23's launch. We have done everything in our power to fix what we've messed up with AFL 23 with the new AFL 26. I think that's a fair statement to say, but let me know your thoughts if you're going to be getting the game and what you think about the game as a whole. But before we go any further, a message from me. If you guys enjoy the content and you want to see more, then make sure to become a member on the channel today. For just $4 a month, you can get early access to video essays, access to live recordings of the Boundary Riders podcast, along with exclusive stream perks and much more. And something that I'm super excited to introduce to channel membership this year is the members vote. Every week with the review, you can cast your vote to have your say on the Boundary Riders medal. So for all that and more, click the link down below, and for the added bonus of getting an extra inch onto your member, then do it now. But anyway, let's get back into the content. But guys, let's move on to our preview to round 9, of course. Now, this is just the clip from the main channel, of course. So I just wanted to quickly mention the showdown coming up and why we picked Port Adelaide, because I think maybe some people would be a bit surprised by that. Basically, the main reason why we're picking Port Adelaide is because they are such a response team. And Port Adelaide have been prone to, when they get absolutely smashed by a team, they get, called out in the media, all that sort of stuff happens. They respond the next week. And what better way to respond than beating the crosstown rivals in Port Adelaide, in the Crows, sorry. So I'm picking the Power to win that game. You'll see it in a moment. But yeah, basically, if you want any other knowledge of the tips, I don't think there's any other ones. Maybe St Kilda and Carlton. I'm basically picking Carlton because I just can't trust the Saints. And, Richmond against West Coast, interesting game, Sunday afternoon, the Cellar Dwellers. I trust Richmond more. That's basically the fact is West Coast still haven't won a game this year. I think they can win this one. Being at the MCG, though, I think it's going to be tough. But anyway, let's get into the preview to round 9. So let's break down some of the big matchups going into the weekend. And first of all, Thursday night, big game between Fremantle and Collingwood in Perth. Collingwood coming off a very, very tough loss against Geelong last week, losing it on the siren to an unfortunate missed kick from Jack Crisp. And Fremantle coming off one of the worst losses you would see, a terrible performance against St Kilda, so needing a response. Now, being in Perth, I think it does give Fremantle much more of a chance. However, I think this is all about Collingwood, really. I don't really see a way that Fremantle could win this game. I know I'm putting that out there pretty early in the description or the preview to this game, but I think Collingwood honestly were due for a loss. I know that's a bit weird to say how good a form they were in, but I think it's not the worst thing in the world to get a loss out of the way around this stage of the season. And I think it's probably going to be a good sign that they'll be able to fix up a few areas that they've probably glossed over in the last 6 or 7 weeks since they've got on this great form. So I think that's all good for Collingwood. On Fremantle, they were absolutely deplorable on the weekend. They kicked 2 goals to 3/4 time, and they're going to have to beat a team that is one of the best defensive teams in the competition. They couldn't get more than 2 goals against St Kilda. Now, St Kilda are obviously a very good defensive team, but I can't see Fremantle kicking a winning score. Yes, this is in Perth, but Collingwood haven't lost in their last 4 games in Perth. So Fremantle do play better at home. I think it's a pretty safe bet, but I can't see a world where Fremantle can win this game. They have been very inconsistent. They've been better at home, but I don't think it's going to make a difference here against Collingwood. Collingwood are just too good at the moment. They'll win this one, I think, by 20 points or so. My brother has also tipped the Pies for that game. Next one is Essendon up against Sydney. Both teams coming off wins. Essendon haven't been as convincing the last 3 weeks. However, they have won 4 of their last 5 games. And Sydney have been pretty poor, losing 3 games before a very good win in the Sydney Derby against the Giants, of course. Now, like I said, Essendon have won 4 of their last 5 games. Their last 2 wins, though, have been against North Melbourne and West Coast, and both of them have been by under a goal. This is quite a big test for them. While Sydney been patchy in most games this year. Even in their win against the Giants last week, they were very patchy throughout the middle part of the game. And on the bookends of the game, they were This is a very interesting contest between both teams. Both of them are outside the top 8. If there is a chance that either of them make it, I don't see there's enough room for both of these teams inside the top 8 at the end of the season. So I think that this one's going to be a pretty big matchup going into it. So looking at a couple of the matchups going into this game, I think it's a very interesting question mark on who goes to Warner and Heaney for the Sydney Swans. I'm looking at probably Sam Durham to go to one of them at stoppage. Most likely Heaney. I think that Warner's a little bit too explosive for Durham. But if one of them goes forward, it's an interesting matchup for the Bombers. Taking Redmond, most likely to go to one of those two. But I do like Warner and Heaney in both of those matchups. And looking at Essendon, I think it was evident last week that in that last quarter, Zach Merritt was the one who took that game away from North Melbourne. So I think safe bet that James Jordan will be going straight to Zach Merritt, be locked next to him for the entire game. So I'm going to be tipping Sydney in this one. My brother's going to be tipping Sydney as well. And the main reason is both teams at their best, I think Sydney win the game. I think Essendon the last 3 weeks haven't shown great signs. They've beaten 2 teams down the bottom very marginally. And they showed some decent signs in the middle part of Anzac Day against Collingwood. But at the end of the day, Collingwood still beat them. Sydney can shut down Zach Merritt. And the Swans last week showed some decent signs. It was a lot better. I liked how their forward line worked out. And I think that's where they can get the Bombers in the end and win the game. However, I mean, it is at Marvel Stadium. It's not exactly a bad venue for the Swans, but the Bombers love it under the roof. So Essendon, I think, have every chance. And I think if they want to prove themselves as a chance to make finals this year, they do need to win this game. The Swans are still heavily underdone with a lot of injuries. So if anything, Essendon should be going to win this game, but I just can't trust them at the moment. I think the Swans, getting that win on the board, hopefully they get them up and going for the rest of the season. Next up is Saturday night, Gold Coast up against the Bulldogs in Darwin. A very interesting game because of not really a neutral venue. Gold Coast have a very good record there, but neither at either side's home grounds. Now, the Gold Coast were coming off a very poor loss against the Lions after being hyped up as one of the biggest Q clashes ever. Didn't live up to the hype whatsoever. The Gold Coast just couldn't keep up with the bigger bodies of the Lions. And the Dogs coming off a rousing performance against Port Adelaide, one of the best performances we've seen from the Bulldogs in some time. So both teams at different ends of the scale right now. Now, the Dogs are in red hot form, while the Suns in the last 3 weeks have been very poor. Suns lost to Richmond, then they were lucky that the Swans dropped off so much in that second half and were able to run over them, and then a very poor performance against the Lions. So the Gold Coast, despite a very, very good start to the year, have dropped off really quick. Can they find their way back is an interesting question because they were hyped up for the first 6 weeks of the year, but now they've hit a bit of a slump, and if they miss finals again after having another good start to a season, I don't really know where they go from here. I think they'll be fine. I think they will get their form back. But they're coming up against a red-hot Western Bulldogs who've got Bontempelli back now. He's in good form. Treloar came back last week. He'll be good for the run in the legs. Liberatore's been good all year, as you would expect. Ed Richards has been good. Matt Kennedy has arguably been one of the best recruits so far this year. Their midfield runs so deep. Their forward line looks solid, even without Sam Darcy. And their defence, surprisingly, is standing up very nicely. So it's really hard to pick holes through the Bulldogs lineup at this stage. However, in saying that, I'm going to be going the Gold Coast purely for the fact that this is being played in Darwin. The Gold Coast have a very good record up north, and I just can't see the Dogs, after playing in Ballarat in such windy, cool conditions, going up to a warm, humid environment like Darwin and winning a game. The Dogs haven't been so good up there, even when they have gone. So that's why I'm going to be going the Gold Coast. My brother has picked the same, but I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised whatsoever if the Dogs get up in that one. And then the final game we're going to be taking a deep dive into is the Geelong v GWS game. Geelong obviously coming off one of the best wins that they've probably had in the last 2 or 3 years minus finals, and GWS coming off the last 3 losses and have fallen off a cliff similar to the Gold Coast Suns. Now, Giants the last 3 weeks have been incredibly disappointing, unable to score, and their defence last week against Sydney was exposed, which is one of their strongest lines, the Giants. So, and then on the Cats' point of view, They're coming off one of their best wins, but they've been a little bit up and down so far this year. However, I think last week is something that's going to get them going. They've always been a bit of a patchy starting team in seasons, but when they get to this middle period, they usually just go up. They usually just start their really good form. In their premiership year, I think they won every single game after round 9. I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised if they start going. And I have to mention Patrick Dangerfield. What a performance he had against Collingwood, especially in that second half. I think Connor Iden probably goes to him, and I think Connor Iden matches up pretty well. We saw how the Swans got under their skin last week, and the Swans forward line was a much lesser forward line than the Cats. So all things point to a Cats win here. However, the Giants have the best record of opposition teams down in Geelong. I think they've won their last 3 games down at the Cattery. The Giants, could be able to pip them here and get back on the winners list, the Giants. It would be an amazing win. It would be one of the biggest wins in the club's history. But with the recent history the Giants have down there, you do have to give them a bit more of a chance. However, personally, I can't do it. I'm not brave enough. I'm going to be tipping the Cats here. Cats are starting to get into some good form. They had a down week against the Blues the week prior to that Collingwood game. But that game, I think, just showed that this Cats team is still going to be up there at the end of the year. That was a real finals-like game, and they still were able to win it. I can't pick the Giants after last week's performance. If it wasn't for Jake Stringer's second half heroics for kicking 3 goals, they would have been smashed by Sydney. And I think if Sydney were either had a little bit more players on the field or they were playing against any team that was inside the top 8, the Giants, they would have been smashed. So honestly, I think the Giants are in a bit of a hole right now. They need to find something. Maybe a trip down to the Cattery where they have good form could be something that sparks them. However, I'm not brave enough to go that far. I think the Cats will win. My brother has gone with the same. So with that being said, let's get to our full tips for round 9. So I have gone with Collingwood over Fremantle, Carlton over St Kilda, Hawthorn over Melbourne, Sydney over Essendon, the Gold Coast over the Dogs, Port Adelaide over Adelaide, Richmond over the West Coast Eagles, Geelong over GWS, and Brisbane over North Melbourne. And my brother for round 9 has gone with Collingwood over Fremantle, Carlton over St Kilda, Hawthorn over Melbourne, Sydney over Essendon, the Gold Coast over the Dogs, Port Adelaide over Adelaide, Richmond over West Coast, Geelong over the Giants, and Brisbane over North Melbourne. So both me and my brother have gone with the same tips this week. On our certainty tips though, I have picked Collingwood to beat Fremantle, of course Collingwood losing over Geelong last week, and my brother has gone with Richmond to beat West Coast, of course Richmond losing to Hawthorn last week. Now, of course, with the certainty picks, last week I picked the Giants to beat the Swans. I got it wrong. And looking at our certainty picks right now, I have got 4 wrong so far this year. My brother has only got 2. So right now, I'm in a pretty big hole. I need to get him missing some tips because I'm not doing very well right now. At the end of the season, we will be doing our Boundary Riders medal live stream, and I'll have to be, at this stage, eating 4 chilies compared to my brother's 2, and I don't really want to eat 1. So 4 is going to be a very big challenge, and we're not even up to halfway through the season, so I'm in a pretty big hole right now. Finally, let's get to our channel's tipping ladder. So at this stage, the boy from SNB still holds the top spot with 54 tips. And my boy Leviticus, I've been shouting him out the last few weeks. He got 8 out of 9 last week. He is in equal top spot with the 54 tips. So sitting in second spot right now, I'm pretty sure he has used his joker though. Now I haven't mentioned him too much on the channel this year in the tipping because he hasn't been up the top. But last year's winner in Brandon Stephen is in 10th spot right now. I don't think he has used his joker just yet, and he's only 5 tips up the top. So he is in 10th spot. He's 2 spots in front of me. I'm sitting in 12th. I dropped down from 10th to 12th this week with only the 6th. Pretty disappointing. I should have done a little bit better than that. Still haven't used my joker though, so I'm still in a pretty decent spot. But Brendan Stephen is still around the mark. He could go back to back. He's only in 10th right now. 5 tips off the pace, and a good joker round could definitely get him up right up there. But right now, at the moment, the boy from SNB still locks on to top spot in the tipping competition. But guys, that's pretty much all we have for this episode of the preview. Of course, for round 9, make sure to let me know down below your tips going into this round. So my brother actually hasn't given me these bets for this week, so I won't be able to do the betting segment this week, unfortunately. Just make sure, I don't think I've mentioned this enough, but I'd always link it down below in the description. If you guys want to go check out his content, he does release other sort of stuff on his Jackpot Junkies Instagram page. He had a TikTok, but it got banned because I don't think you're allowed to really have betting stuff on there. But if you want to find out more tips and stuff for your bets going forward through the AFL especially, does a little bit of Premier League and other sort of sports around the year. But if you want to follow that sort of stuff, then make sure to check him out on Instagram. The link will be down below. And maybe leave a comment down there saying, do some more content for it, because I don't think he does enough, and I think it's actually some cool stuff on there. So make sure you go check that out. But now let's move into AFL Fantasy review for the week. And of course, we had a big week of AFL Fantasy, and basically the main point after this video would be to watch for your buys, because the buys are coming up pretty shortly, and you want to be really prepared for that. And also make sure to keep an eye on a couple of debutants. I've seen a couple of ones circulating around, especially for Collingwood this week, because they're resting a few players. So make sure to keep your eye on that. But let's get into the review for AFL Fantasy for round 8. And I thought I was having a pretty decent week. I picked the captaincy on Max Gawn, of course, the highest scorer. I always feel confident when you do that. Of course, 158 if you don't know, 316 as captain. You love to see it from the big guy. However, despite that, there was actually quite a lot of disappointing scores. I did in the end get 2,151, which was ranked 18,669 across the whole round. So, good performance, first of all. Harry Sheezel, 134. You love to see it. Matt Roberts got 86. I'll take that as the Sydney's highest scorer. Luke Traynor with 87. Second highest scorer for the Tigers. Dawson with 122. Merritt 117. The Ashcroft brothers, brilliant. 234 between them. Max Gawn, of course, I've already mentioned. Bailey Smith, 119. McRae, 139. All great. But then a lot of my high-priced players, mid-scores, you would say. Max Holmes hasn't had a very good couple of weeks. Only got 79. Jake Bowie's been in insane form. Only was able to get 70 in the end. Riley Bice, you shouldn't expect a lot from a rookie defender for the start of the year, but only 44. Just didn't get the touches against the Giants. Connor Rosie, 87. Nick Dacos, don't know what happened to him in that last quarter. Just got absolutely shut down by Mullen with the 92. Lawler and Lindsay have to look to move them on, unfortunately. 55, and the latter got 33. Tom de Koning did not much, 65. Caleb Daniel only got the 77. Riley Sanders, my God, 51 in a game when they won by nearly 100 points. Needs to do better than that. So that's not great, honestly. 2,151, I should have been getting, with a Gawn score like that, you should be getting over 2,200, really. I mean, I shouldn't have done lower than that. I thought for sure I had that one locked up after that game, but couldn't get it done. Not good enough from me. Now, my brother's team did worse, so I felt a little bit better over the weekend that he did worse, and he's almost below me in the tipping ladder in the channel, which we'll look to in a moment. But he got 2,047, which was ranked 42,913. Not very good. Now, a couple of players that he had a little bit different that did well. He had Wanganeen Miller with the 103. He also had, trying to look through, he had the captaincy on Nick Dacos. Not very good. Tristan Cherry, he did have with the 121. You take that. Christian Petrarca with the 121 as well. So he's got a couple of players different, but didn't have the captaincy on a Max Gawn, which really saved me in this week looking at it. Because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have, I don't even know if I would have scored. I wouldn't have even got 2,000, I don't think. So I'm not the greatest at maths. 158. I don't think I would have got it. I can't remember my score anymore. No, I wouldn't have got it. So that's how poor it would have been. So thank God for Max Gawn. Now, a couple of the players that he had that didn't score very well was Jaden Short. I mean, 80 you probably take in the end. He was lucky he had Zach Reed on the bench to bring him in. Xavier Lindsay as well with the only 33. He had Sam Davidson in his team. I took the Caden Cleary score. But overall, very similar team to mine. I didn't realize how much closer his team is to mine at this stage of the season. But now let's get to our trades for the week. I have gone with Murphy Reed out and Boxall in from the Saints. And I've got rid of Matt Carroll and picked up Fonte. Now, I think I've mentioned it in the last few reviews that I've got rid of Reed. However, I have had to change them. So this week, I am 99% confident I'm getting rid of Murphy Reed. He's dropping in price now. I can't see it. I can't see him getting back into some form. And his price is, I think, well and truly maxed out. So I've got rid of him. I picked up Boxall. He scored about 58, I think it was, at halftime for the Saints. Dropped off in his first game, but 74 from a midfielder who's going to be my rookie. I'm more than happy to take that risk and get his price going up. And I've got rid of Matt Carroll for Fonte. Now, it's only 40k. People would be wondering why I've done that, because Carroll could have some points still generating or some coin. But I do think that Fonte, his performance in the Derby for the Giants was actually quite good. He looked really composed at the level, playing off that D50. So I think he's going to get some more games. He's only priced at 340. He's only priced at 354, and a lot of people have compared him to Marcus Bontempelli. Now, I'm not putting that on him at this stage, but if he can do anything near that, I am more than happy to take a risk on him. So only a 40k upgrade on that trade. However, having 318 at the moment, I should be able to next week get rid of one of my other rookie players, probably Lawler, get another 300k there, and then I either get rid of Davidson, Lindsay, or Bice at this stage. Probably one of those three are the main ones I'm going to be looking to get rid of. And then that will mean I can start building out those rookies out. So Levi Ashcroft is one that I am probably going to hold the longest with a trainer or a Bice at this stage. I think that Bice will probably start to be pricing out now with that 44, but I think I will hold him. I think that was a pretty tough performance against the Giants. The fact that the Swans didn't have anyone go over 90 shows it was a pretty tough day to get points for the Sydney Swans. So the fact that he got 44 once and he's done pretty well other than that, I think Bice is pretty safe. But at the moment, Lindsay's got a look to go. Davidson's probably out. Sanders I do have to get rid of, but at this stage, I still want to look to get rid of my rookies first. That is my main priority at this stage. But we'll get to my brother's trades. He has gone with Riley Bice out for Hugo Boxall, and he's got rid of Moraes for Isaac Rankin. So he's got Isaac Rankin into the team. Interesting call. I think that's probably what a lot of people are doing at this stage because Isaac Rankin's got so much midfield time this year for the Crows. However, if I'm looking for a forward mid at this stage, if I'm looking to get rid of a forward, my role is to try and get a midfielder in, a straight mid. That's probably where I'm looking. But I can see what he's doing, and a lot of the midfield forwards that he does have in his midfield group are actually scoring really well. You've got Jack McRae, Bailey Smith, Christian Petrarca, all scoring really nicely. So you could put them in your midfield. And his defense is pretty solid. Everyone bar Zach Reid are all prone, they can all get hundreds. His forward line is a little bit shaky though. Other than the first three, the next three are Sanders, Levi Ashcroft, and Sam Davidson. All on their day can score 100, but the consistency has been a little bit off so far this year. So his other three forwards are Caleb Daniel, Isaac Rankin, Jason Horne-Francis. So something that he probably has to work out in the next couple of weeks, but at this stage, not a massive deal. Now his current overall rank is 7,476. My overall rank at this stage is 7,606. So he is 130 places in front of me after a very poor week. So I don't want to rub that in, maybe a little bit more, but he's not here at the moment. So I won't talk to him about it too much. So let's have a look at the Channels League. At this stage, the Cheetah Cubs is still hanging on to his lead. He's been able to hold on to it for, I think, the last 3 weeks now. He got 2,206 over the week. Geelong supporter, I believe, so he's having a pretty good week all around. Done very well, holding a 66-point lead on second place Pub Feed with Sauce. We've mentioned him a couple of times. He was number one in AFL Fantasy across the whole country, or world if you want to be that. I don't know. I don't think it's a world, but you know what I mean. He's in second spot right now in the league. 2,164, scored just better than me. Interesting if he had a poor week. Everyone else had the max score like me, but he's still sitting in second spot. And there's only a 23-point gap from him in third spot, which is Len Never Pretends. Okay, so this is Lenny. He's got 2,218 over the weekend. He's sitting in third spot. Jumped into that third spot after a good week. I want to quickly mention the person in eighth spot, though, which is Welshman. Got 2,297, one of the highest scores in the league over the week. Did very, very well. Jumped into eighth spot. And it's pretty log-jammed up the top spot. So if you look at it, there's only a 180-point difference between first and eighth position. And if you have a week like my brother and score 100 less because you pick a poor captain or something, you can definitely improve your season. So looking at him, he was in fourth spot, I think, a month ago. He has dropped all the way down to 27th. It is truly embarrassing. And he's not actually going to be on the podcast tomorrow because he may say it's work in the next couple of weeks, but you guys will know he is not here because he has had such a poor month in AFL Fantasy and he knows it. So he's been dropped out of the podcast. But anyway, he's had a poor couple of weeks. He is one spot in front of me by 3 points. He is 3 points in front of me, guys, and it's really embarrassing that he's dropped so far off. I haven't done too well the last few weeks, I will be honest, but I'm thinking the next couple of trades, I think these two downgrades I've done this week are going to be able to propel my team getting into the buys, which we do have to keep an eye on because round 12 is only nearly a month away, just under that. And that's when the buys will start coming. So keep your eye on that when you do your trades, guys. But that's pretty much all we've got for the review this week. Make sure to let me know down below what your trades are going to be, what your moves are going into the buys, and if you have any advice for me, I would really appreciate it. So guys, that's basically we have for this episode of the podcast. Sorry it's a little bit shorter, but my brother isn't here, so there's not really a lot of talk back, and our overreact / fair call segment isn't in this episode because, you know, it's a bit weird if I'm making those sort of questions and I'm just talking about it. So yeah, basically that segment's not here this week, but hopefully my brother is back for next week's episode, and I'll maybe try and think of a segment that I can make that's solo. I just want to mention one more thing before we end the episode is the reason why there was no video on Monday was because I was actually quite sick. You may have noticed it in the review for a couple of the talks when I did earlier in the week. So this, the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday games, you may have heard my voice was a bit croaky. I was just a bit sick, but that's pretty much all I wanted to say. There was no video on Monday, but tips are out. There will be a new video essay out on Monday. It's either going to be one regarding the GWS Giants and their rise, or a video regarding the most disrespected AFL player. You decide who that is. But guys, that is all we have for you for this episode of the podcast. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe over on YouTube. We're nearly at 200 subs on this podcast channel, and we have been releasing podcast clips. So if you have a mate that may enjoy the podcast and he doesn't really want to get into a full episode, maybe send him one of the clips. We've sent a couple out. The Jason and Francis one went pretty well on the channel. So if you do like that sort of stuff, or you think a mate would get involved, make sure to share them around. Make sure to like and subscribe on the channel. If you're over on Spotify, make sure to leave us 5 stars and make sure to follow so you're notified on the podcast and the review every single week. But again, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you all next week.